You know, between 66 and 70% of the voters in 5 battleground states support K through 12 choice in school. But let's talk about the debate, shall we? 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I'd like to know what you thought. Tell you what I thought. I thought that Kamala Harris came across as condescending and smug. And I thought Mike Pence was calm, cool, classy, and thorough. And I was delighted that a lot of the talking points I've been using on the program that I've urged the administration to use, they've used. For example, you remember the advisor to Joe Biden, who, when the Obama-Biden administration was going on, he said that we dealt with the H1N1 so-called swine flu, and some very smart people did everything wrong. The only reason this wasn't a bigger disaster, and by the way, more people contracted the swine flu than have contracted coronavirus, COVID-19. He said the only reason it wasn't a bigger disaster was because of luck. Here's what the advisor said last year.
I just had a couple things. I mean, I was in the White House in 2009, 2010. I was working for Vice President Biden. I wasn't involved directly in the H1N1 response, but I lived through it as a White House staffer. And what I will say about it is a bunch of really talented, really great people working on it, and we did every possible thing wrong. And it's, 60 million Americans got H1N1 in that period of time, and it's just purely a fortuity that this isn't one of the great mass casualty events in American history. Had nothing to do with us doing anything right. It just had to do with luck. And so if anyone thinks that this can't happen again, they don't have to go back to 1918. They just have to go back to 2009, 2010. Imagine a virus with a different lethality, and you can just do the math on that.
That was Joe Biden advisor, then and now, Ron Klain. He's still a Joe Biden advisor. That was last year. Here is Mike Pence last night.
You know, the reality is when you talk about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Thankfully, it ended up not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, not 7.5 million people contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus, in 2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives. His own chief of staff, Ron Klain, would say last year that it was pure luck that they did, quote, everything possible wrong. And we learned from that. They left the strategic national stockpile empty. They left an empty and hollow plan, but we still learned from it. And I think the American people, I'm going to say again, can be proud of what we have done. And Senator, please stop undermining confidence in a vaccine.
And on this issue of packing the Supreme Court, you see, it doesn't test well. As has been pointed out, when this was tried during the FDR administration, even Democrats didn't like it. And that is why you cannot get Joe Biden or Kamala Harris to say yes or no whether or not they will pack the court in the event that Coney Barrett is confirmed. AOC wants to pack the court, has publicly said we ought to pack the court. But when it's brought up to Kamala Harris and brought up to Joe Biden, well...
When you speak about the Supreme Court, though, I think the American people really deserve an answer, Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed? I mean, there have been 29 vacancies on the Supreme Court during presidential election years, from George Washington to Barack Obama. Presidents have nominated in all 29 cases. But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more. In 1864.
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
No, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
And I'm speaking. He did it a couple times and never answered the question.
The American people are voting right now, and it should be their decision about who will serve on this most important body for a lifetime.
Thank you,
And
Senator
the
Harris.
people, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about packing.
You once again gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you
the
now.
American people deserve a straight answer. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election. Men and
Mr.
women,
Vice President,
I got to tell you,
think
people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court.
By the way, I loved how Pence a couple of times said, if you somehow win this election.
If you cherish the separation of powers, you need to reject the Biden-Harris ticket. Come November the 3rd, re-elect President Donald Trump, and we'll stand by that separation of powers in a 9-seat Supreme Court.
Yeah, let's talk about packing the court then. Let's talk about the fact. Yeah, I'm about to. So
Still never answered.
the Trump-Pence administration has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned, and I've witnessed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal. People who are purely ideological, people who
Yeah, so do you intend to pack the court or not?
have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard. And do you know that of the 50 people who President
Anytime you want to zero in on the answer, we're happy to hear it.
Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a...
So the reason you're not answering about packing the court is because Trump hasn't appointed any black judges? The kinds of judges you'd call Uncle Toms and sell out if you found them, if they were competent?
court. Let's have that discussion.
Anytime.